So welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you here for our October huddle, our all-volunteer huddle. This is a little bit of a special huddle in that we're going to be focusing on looking at the maps, the State House maps that were just adopted, and doing a bit of a deep dive into how to use Dave's redistricting app. And of course, we're going to update you on all the things that have been happening with redistricting in Ohio in the past month, because yes, a lot has been going on. So this is our agenda. We're going to talk about the hearings and the outcome of the Ohio Redistricting Commission meetings. We're going to talk about the approved State House maps, do a bit of a comparison, see what comes next. I'm going to mention a Common Cause redistricting report. Then we'll do a bit of a deep dive into Dave's and how to use it. And then Collin's going to do an analysis of the approved maps using Dave's. And then I will tell you a little bit more about what's happening with the ballot board and signature collection, and share some upcoming trainings and, useful links and all of that. And of course, we will do a follow-up tomorrow. You're going to get these slides. You're going to get a recording. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. Those are easier for us to find and answer there than in the chat. We always are eager to answer your questions. And with that, I am going to get started. So just to give you a little bit of an update, since we last met, of course, it's been over a year since the Ohio Supreme Court ordered the Ohio Redistricting Commission to convene and draw new maps. But they waited all the way until the end of September, and then they had a series of very rushed hearings. There was the opportunity to give testimony, but very limited opportunity. And it was, some fairly hard to get to places around the state. There were 2 hearings on on Yom Kippur, which was really not a great thing. Of course, Andrea Jagoda came and rather famously called everyone to shame. And I just wanted to mention this testimony from Mike Ahern, just as an example of the kind of really useful and impactful testimony that a citizen can bring. Mike was talking about how Intel is coming to the region, Central Ohio, and how the way they drew the maps actually made it quite difficult for them. They're not going to be in a single district. And so, this is the kind of testimony that the commission would have done really well to have taken into consideration. But it seemed like all of their negotiations and, back and forth was happening in a back room. And we ended up with a unified bipartisan map, which is an 8-year map, because of the fact that it was approved by both parties. And this is what the whole topic of this evening is going to be about. What did we actually get? Let's look at those maps. What did both the Republicans and Democrats agree to? And again, it's an 8-year map unless we pass a redistricting reform, a citizens redistricting commission, in which case it becomes just a 2-year map, because after we pass the reform, we start afresh and we draw new maps. So that's a really, really quick introduction to basically what happened. The commission met, they adopted new maps. Those maps are being challenged in court. I think Collin will say a little bit more about that. Meanwhile, of course, we're going on with the effort to do redistricting reform. But let's take a look at what we got. And I'm turning it over to Collin.
Well, thanks, Mia, and good evening, everyone. Always great to be here with you. So to start, before we kind of dig into the meat of the unified map, I kind of wanted to put a little chart in front of everybody here to see how the maps that have been or that were in front of the commission stack up against one another. And I included 5 different sets of maps. The map that we used in 2022, the map that Senator McCauley and Representative LaRae introduced as the working map that the commission ultimately used as their working document, the Antonio Russo map, that they put forward, as well as the unified map, or the map that we ended up having and that was approved by the commission, and then also the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission. They resubmitted their map as well. And as you can see, I have these maps broken down with 5 different criteria, and this criteria is very useful when using Dave's. This is how Dave's redistricting kind of gives the snapshot analysis of a map. It measures the map's proportionality, how well the seats, relate to statewide voter preferences, competitiveness, minority representation, compactness as measured by both Paulsby-Popper and REOC, which are different measures of compactness, and also the splitting of townships and jurisdictions. And what's interesting when you look at this map, or when you look at this chart, you can see that the unified map in the 4th column here, the unified map actually does not achieve the best result in any one of the 5 metrics that are used. Rather, it is, in 2nd or 3rd in a couple, but it does not lead the way in any of them. Importantly, I want to say that the commission during these meetings always seem to be positing false choices. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is we hear members of the commission say, well, we can't have proportionality because that's going to inherently lead to non-compact districts. We can't have competitive districts because we need to achieve splitting requirements. And as you can see by this chart, that is just not reality. We can have all of the above. We can have strong maps in all of these different criteria. And I just need to look at the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission to see the proof. And I should also say that though it's not up on this chart, the Johnson McDonald, the independent map makers map from the previous go around that was passed or was worked on in April, very closely aligns with the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission's numbers here. But it's a false choice to say that we can't have proportionality with compactness. As you can see here, the Citizens Redistricting Commission was more proportional and more compact. It's a false choice to say that we can't have competitive, higher competitive elections without disturbing the splitting requirements. Well, the unified map and the Citizens Redistricting Commission map are essentially the same in terms of competitiveness. Now, granted, they're both at the lower end of the spectrum, but they are reasonably the same, as well as their splitting requirements. They are exceptional in splitting. And then, lastly, when we're looking at minority representation and how that can, also be, kind of an afterthought when we're dealing with drawing districts. It does not, in fact, have to be so. In fact, the Citizens Commission has the highest metric for minority representation, allowing for districts to be comprised of higher percentages of minority voters, thus allowing them a higher likelihood of choosing a representative like them. So I just wanted to put this chart up here as a baseline of when we're hearing and when we're recalling commission meetings and the infuriating rhetoric about how, we have to choose one or the other. We have to choose competitiveness over proportionality, compactness over proportionality. Those are just wrong. And we will get into some of the specifics of the as approved, the unified map that really showcases how some of these metrics, were cast aside in favor of partisan political considerations. So, Mia, if you want to go on to the next slide. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I know it's a lot of numbers, but I do want to highlight that once we send these slides out to folks, you'll see the hyperlinks here on the left-hand side. Those are actually links to all of the maps that were proposed. You can see here, there are links to Dave's website where the maps will be uploaded, so you can actually take a look and play around with specific districts and maybe try to become more familiar with some of the analysis and techniques that we're going to share later this evening. Next slide, please, Mia. These are just kind of our, the snapshots of the house maps that were adopted by the commission. Again, not really too much to see here other than just have these for your reference. And then the next slide, we will show the Senate passed maps. Once again, just so you all have that for your reference, if you want to go back and look at some of the districts as you're looking through Dave's to see kind of how they would stack up after making any changes that you may wish as you explore the capabilities of Dave's redistricting. Next slide, please. So a couple of the key areas that I want to take a look at before I turn it over to Trevor and he talks about kind of the functionality and capability of Dave's are two specific counties, and one is Montgomery County, which we have right here. For those of us who have been paying attention and who have been following along the redistricting saga, Montgomery County continuously is a point of contention among the commission. It's very clear, that Montgomery County has the population and the electoral partisan indexes to have a more balanced representation of the districts within the county. Keep in mind, this is a county that President Biden won in 2020, that Senator Sherrod Brown has won in 2018, that Governor Mike DeWine has won in 2022. So this is a very balanced county in terms of political index. Unfortunately, as we have consistently seen, Montgomery County is always a target of the packing and cracking techniques that we see create gerrymandered districts. Now, we have a couple of side-by-sides here showing the as introduced map by Senator McCauley and Representative LaRae and the unified map. As we can see, it's very sprawling, very convoluted and contorted shapes that seem to, don't really have any rhyme or reason. They don't look good. They don't really follow any specific principle of drawing fair districts or achieving compactness or proportionality. Whereas, yeah.
So sorry, someone is just asking what the colors mean.
Yeah, sure. So when we're looking at the colors, obviously we are equating blue and red to mean Democrat and Republican. Now, the variance in the shades of those reds or blues represents the competitiveness of the district. So when we look here in the snapshot of McCauley-LaRae, you can see this very light beige District 39. What that signifies is that District 39 in this map is a very competitive yet leaning Republican district because it's a very faint shade of red, almost beige. Whereas if we look at District 38, which is downtown Dayton, as you can see, it's a very deep, blue. That district is a 77% Democratic index. So it has a much deeper color to connotate that polarized partisan index. And you'll see that throughout the map as we begin to explore. Those varying shades of red and blue indicate varying shades of support for Dem or Republican candidates. Thank you for that question. But what I was going to conclude by saying is that when we look at these maps and we look at this county in particular, we see all too often Dayton suffer from, packing as many Democratic voters into a single district in order to achieve a much more lopsided outcome in terms of the remaining seats of that county. As you can see, districts 36 under the unified ORC map, that constitutes a small portion of Dayton, as well as the city of Ketterington and some outlying townships. Even in the unified ORC map, that is still a slightly leaning Republican seat. And that is because, again, District 38 is close to an 80% Democratic index. It's a classic packing of the city of Dayton into one district. Now, I will say the unified map does have, I would hesitate to call them more competitive map districts, because if you see between the two districts, 39 in the Macaulay-Luray map and 36 in the unified map are very competitive. But that also allows for, under the unified map, District 39 to become much more solidly Republican, and District 37 to essentially remain untouched in its partisan breakdown. The lines changed, but really the outcome stayed the same. So this is one example of where there were additional seats on the table to achieve better proportionality, and frankly, as we'll see in the next slide, to achieve better compactness as well. So perfect, thank you. So this is the same county. This is the same data that were used to compile these districts and their metrics. As you can see, very different result. Very different result. Now, starting at the Johnson-McDonald map, you can see it's kind of, it does split Dayton into 4 different districts, but the city of Dayton is larger than one House district, so you're able to split it. So that is still compliant with the splitting rules of the Constitution. And it also does have, more compact districts, districts 38 and 39, as well as 36. Turning next to the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission, you can see this configuration actually creates 3 Democratic districts. And by the shade of these districts, they are more reliable Democratic districts. And it does so by pairing like communities together in the form of Trotwood and Jefferson Townships on the western border of Dayton, along with the city of Dayton extending to the county's eastern border. So, and obviously it goes without saying, these districts are far more compact than the ones that were passed by in the unified map. Again, meeting several of the different metrics that the commission is purporting to prioritize. The Citizens Redistricting Commission checks a lot more boxes than what was passed. And just another example, we'll go to the next slide. And I want to focus a little bit on Hamilton County here. I know there was a lot of debate among the members of the commission, as well as some of the people giving testimony in front of the commission. And I'm speaking specifically of one gentleman on the Tuesday that the final vote was cast, talking about county proportionality. And that is just a figment of our imagination. And nowhere in the Ohio Constitution does it, Article 11, talk about county proportionality. It's statewide proportionality. However, it was very adamant that some members of the commission demanded 2 Republican-leaning districts in Hamilton County. And as you can see, by creating 2 of these districts, you really are, left to have some very, very contorted, non-compact districts that, do not really match the political geography of the county. Looking specifically at the unified ORC map here on the right-hand side, you can see District 29 really kind of juts across into some of the more urban and minority communities of northern Hamilton County. It packs the city of Cincinnati into essentially only 3 districts, which the city of Cincinnati is large enough to be in more than just 3. But as we can see here, these were choices made by the commission to sacrifice compactness and proportionality with essentially safeguarding multiple Republican-leaning districts within the county in an effort to have county proportionality, which again, simply does not exist in the state constitution. Conversely, if we were to go to the next slide, and we're looking at, again, the Johnson-McDonald map and the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission map. This map is much more compact. It respects minority communities much better. And in fact, the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission actually creates an additional opportunity district for minority voters in the county. But it also respects the political geography of the conservative western portion of the county. But it realizes that that portion is more um, similar and should be included in one district. Whereas, central and eastern portions of the county, which are reliably Democratic, they reserve that partisan index through these maps. We also see, again, much more compact, less packing. And what I will also get into later is that we will see a much more equalized population among the districts. Now, more on that later. But I just wanted to, again, show some specific examples of how the commission, though they talk about wanting to respect, compactness and competitive elections, in fact, that really is not the case. And we see political considerations, protecting incumbents. We see a host of different factors, weigh heavily on the decisions made by the commission, rather than, the metrics that are actually put into the Constitution, proportionality, partisan fairness, while still respecting communities of interest. So these were just a couple snapshots. I'm going to turn it over to our good friend Trevor Martin, who's going to walk through some of the actually, before I do, I do want to give an update on a new legal challenge that has been filed against the unified map. Several of the petitioners that filed in 2022 and 2021 against the old maps, they refiled objections. The ACLU and the league did so. And really, it's a pretty cut and dry legal argument. It's actually a rather short brief. It's only 14 pages long. And what we say in that brief is essentially, though the Redistricting Commission cast a bipartisan unanimous vote on these maps, that does not mean that they have free rein to forget about partisan fairness, about favoring parties over another, about foregoing proportionality. We cite previous decisions in the redistricting litigation from only a year ago, saying that the majority of the court has agreed proportionality is not aspirational. It is in fact mandatory. And simply because 7 politicians voted unanimously for one map does not mean that they get to walk away from that charge and from that responsibility. For next steps on the litigation, really the Ohio Supreme Court is kind of in the driver's seat right now. We don't know when or if the court will take up our legal challenge, but we do know that if they are going to do something with the litigation, it must be soon, because as we know, the primary election is in March for presidential years, so time is ticking. I can try to answer some more questions about the lawsuit at the end of the presentation, but for that now I'll stop and hand it over to Trevor.
Awesome, thank you. And there are some questions, maybe we'll think about them and answer later. There was a question about the relative importance of the 5 criteria that you talked about, Collin. And then also someone had a question about the names that are seen down along the left-hand side. And maybe Trevor, you can answer that one as well. But for now, let's go on. I think Trevor is going to share his screen. And we're going to dive into Dave's.
Hello, everyone. I think, Ken, I'm not sure. I think you might have been talking about you were looking at municipality names that you could see in the background map. If you were talking about the names along the top, those were the authors of whatever map we were looking at. But I'm gonna try and make this quick. This may be boring for some folks, but what was one of the most infuriating parts of this whole process for me was that, like, if you wanted to see the kind of things that Collin was just going over about the maps, it's like you couldn't. The commission didn't release that data. They didn't release the maps. They post something on the commission where you can download but folks don't have, you know, the capabilities or access or know how to do that, you know, and most of the time it depended on folks like myself. Like I often was the first to upload these to Dave's, you know, because the commission doesn't upload them to Dave's. You know, you won't be able to find their maps unless someone else has uploaded them there, has downloaded that information and uploaded it to Dave's. I've done that a couple times. Other volunteers have done that. Jeff Weiss has done that. Andrew Green has, you know, has been the breaking map person on Dave's. It's incredible. It's infuriating that you know, that folks are just left in the dark about this. And so if you want to find this information, you know, and do a deeper dive into these maps and look at the data and have some stuff to, you know, back up your concerns and arguments and the issues that you have with these maps, it's like, you know, this is how you do it. So first of all, Dave's redistricting.org, you know, just www.davesredistricting.org. You'll go here, and you don't have to have an account, but it's super easy to sign up. You just give them an email. You know, I don't get spam emails from Dave's. I don't get like they don't, you know, solicit me. It's super easy and fun to have. So I suggest just sign up super quick, and then you'll get more access to like published maps that folks have published. Otherwise, you don't have. If you click on Ohio here, you don't have access to published maps, but you do have the official maps that have been passed or rejected, official plans that have been rejected, you know, past plans that were rejected by the court. So if you sign in, the homepage will look like this. You'll have a little up here. You'll have a new like menu bar, maps. You'll let me hit that. Sorry, it's internet taking just a second there. So these are maps that I've downloaded or have been shared with me, that have been published. And you know what you want to do is, and you can make a new map, and you know, making maps is a whole nother thing. This is I just want to go in how to look and read maps that are already out there. So what you want to do, if they're not published already, like you can go to published maps up here, and there's thousands of maps that are published, and you could just search and filter and find what you're looking for. And you can start, you know, a little collection like I have here. If you want to, like, if there's a map that just went out on the commission's site or something, if you've got data for, you'll hit import up here. And there's certain, you know, you have to kind of be a little nerdy, like the certain, like the file, the type of files, like there, you know, the shape files, usually it's shape files or block assignment files. The easiest way, and that usually everybody provides, are these block assignment files or precinct assignment files. Sometimes they'll just call BAFs, and they'll be in a CSV form. Well, they need to be in a CSV form when you import them into Dave's. Now, where do you find this? Okay, we'll go to the redistricting Ohio Redistricting Commission. Once you get to the Ohio Redistricting Commission, you'll go into maps, and then you'll hit view maps, and it'll take you here. These are all the maps that have been submitted to the commission. You'll see that the Bennett petitioners have submitted another map. That's the Johnson McDonald map with some corrections. There's the OCRC map. Jeff Weiss submitted his map. A few more. Here's the official maps here. You'll hit download. All right, and then you'll go into your downloads here. And when I download that, the new unified map, it comes up as this. This is my download. You'll go into there. Oops, I'm sorry. Unified bipartisan redistricting plan, go into there, and then you'll get a bunch of files. What you're looking for are these block assignment files. And if they're nice, they provided the CSV. You'll see what type of file here. If they're nice, they provided the CSV or shape files. But here they did not. That's the commission for you. So what they did provide though are Excel files. And so this is what you're looking for is those BAF files. Here it says BAF, that's block assignment files. So you'll open those up. So we'll double click that there. And when you open it up, it'll look like this. And you want to be enable editing. So you can save this as a I'm sorry, it's enable editing. I don't know what's doing this here. It's okay. I already have this. But what you want to do is hit enable editing, and then you'll go into file, and you'll hit it'll once you allow it to edit, you'll save as. Hold on. I'm sorry. I want to make sure that you see what you're looking for, and all right. So you'll save as a CSV file, comma, separated values. It'll give you a long list, and what you're looking for is CSV, comma, separated values, and you'll save that BAF block assignment file as a CSV file. Save it anywhere in your computer. There you go. And then you'll go back to Dave's there, and when you import that, you'll choose your file, and that's the one you want there. Open it up, BAF block assignment file CSV, and then you'll just import that, and it'll take a couple minutes, and then it'll show up in your list here, and then you just open it up. Now, once you open it up, like this is again a lot of the times. Sorry, just give a minute to load. Where like it's folks are like, oh, what what am I looking at? And depending on like who uploads the file to Dave's, it'll show up in a different format, or it'll show up with different data sets. And so that was another thing that was so frustrating. It's like folks were getting different numbers, and it throws, it affects everything from like the seat count to the everything on the analytics about proportionality and minority representation. So it's like what data set you're using is important. So when you first download that one that's provided by the commission, it comes up looking like this, and down here in the right bottom of this legend, you'll see what data set they're using. Now, I've already updated it to the composite 2016 through 2022, but depending on who posted it, it could be anything from like 2020 presidential data or like 2016 to 2020. And so what you want to do, I mean, you could look at whatever data set you want, but what the commission most similar to what the commission's using, and again, this is a guess because they don't share with us what the hell they're using, but we're assuming they're using 2012 to 2022 statewide elections. And so you'll go to your settings here and you'll go to election, and then you can pick whatever data set you want. But what's going to be most similar, we're thinking, to the commission is this composite 2016-2022 data set. And you're going to want to apply that and then push apply down there. And that'll give you your data set. And then so above here is your data, what you're looking at here. And all these lines, this is broken up into precincts right now. You'll see up here at the top left, there's these county city precincts. This is like you hover over something and it'll give you the data in that precinct, total population data, voting age population, broken down in demographics, and then like the partisan makeup there down at the bottom under the composite data. You could change that to county. This brings up your county lines. So now you got your county details over here in the right. You could do it by city. This brings up all your cities. We'll go to Toledo here. And this will bring up the city of Toledo details. So that's first of all your details in the right hand legend. Now, also to help you understand again what the hell you're looking at, there's a lot of lines here. Over here on the left of this other legend, all the way at the bottom, there's overlays. And so the first one thing you want to do, I think, is hit this map overlay. And what that does is bring up the background map, gives you like, the names and landmarks, rivers and things. You can get rid of those precinct lines if you want to do district lines. You can do just city lines, your county lines. What I usually like to do is just get my district lines and county lines. Across here, directly across district lines, if you hit your labels, it'll bring up the numbers of the districts there for you. You have to have it checked. You have to have that district lines checked for it to work. County lines, across from the county lines, there's a labels box. Hit the county lines and it'll give you your county labels there. City, same thing. City, bring up your cities, hit that labels across from there. It'll give you the names of the cities. All right, that's overlays. Now, up above overlays is colors. The map colors is just the district colors. All right, you could do a partisan lean, and that's what Collin was looking at earlier at Montgomery and Hamilton. If you hit this partisan lean, it tells you how, it's pretty much a colored information of that composite partisan information in the bottom right. You could also do demographics of the districts. And you could, this is all minorities, but you could, just look at a specific populations. And then below districts, you have to check make sure that's all unchecked. Precincts, you could do, again, partisan lean, and now you have like the partisan leaning of each precinct. You can do a swing, and it shows you how much the precinct has changed from one election to another. So this is from 2016 to 2020. and then finally demographics again of the precincts. This breaks down a better demographic information, and you can see a better idea of packing and cracking of minority communities and things like that. And so with that,
Trevor,
I know
will you-
it's super fast, but like up here is statistics. If you hit statistics, that's just everything in a list form. Pretty much
Sure.
everything I just went over in a list form. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Collin to go
Trevor,
into this analytics. Yes.
will you just we'll go back to the map for 1 second, just move that opacity just so folks can see that the map, the
Oh
underlying
yeah.
map will be easier to see.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes those colors are a little bit overbearing, and you can't really see the communities underneath. So yeah, if you throw that that opacity level back,
Yeah,
you can see the streets underneath better there.
that's great. Thank you so much. We're gonna go on to Collin. He's gonna share his screen. And we will keep on. That was amazing.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Here, let me get organized here. Okay. So, what I want to show you all here are some of the things that I like to look at when I am, doing kind of my own analysis of the map. This isn't everything, but these are some of the things that I look for. And the first thing I want to touch on is what Trevor was mentioning about the data sets. Now, this is a very, technical aspect of the maps, but it's critically important when we're looking at how maps are expected to perform in terms of proportionality. And there's a great example here in Lorain County. So, here we are in Lorain County with districts 53, 52, and 54. Now, as Trevor mentioned, kind of what we are using as a base model here, as a base data set, is the composite section, composite elections between 2016 and 2020. Now, I'm going to put on my partisan lean for the districts while we do this, because it really is going to show you just how important having the correct data is. So we'll zoom in here. So as we see, using the 2016-2022 composite, District 53, if we look over here into the district details bar on the right, all the way at the bottom, we see Democrats can expect 52.8, 53% support, Republicans 46.4. In District 52, we can see a very close election with Democrats gaining around 48% and Republicans a little over 51%. Now, let's go ahead and let's switch the data set from the composite 2016-2020 to composite 2016 to 2020. I'm sorry, from 16 to 22 to 16 to 2020. We're going to apply that. Now, as we can see, not a whole lot of change, but District 53 becomes much more Democratic. District 52 also becomes a little bit Democratic and really comes into almost a pure toss-up. Again, looking over on the right-hand side at the very bottom, it really only 70 votes separating the two parties using this data set. So you can see how they change. Additionally, the remainder of Lorain County becomes less Republican. It's still red by all means. It's still, a comfortable Republican majority, but less so. So I want to just show kind of very stark examples here. Let's say we focused in on a single election. Let's say Sherrod Brown's re-election in 2018, Senator 2018 election. Let's see how these districts perform under that data set. Whoa, as we can see here, a lot more blue under this under this election set. So As we can see, a lot of different shifting. Even all of Lorain County is now a very close election, but with the Democratic candidate prevailing. And finally, just kind of going in the opposite direction, let's look at only the governor's race of 2022. This is Governor Mike DeWine's latest re-election campaign. Very red, very red. So this is kind of a demonstration of just how important using the correct data set is when looking at these maps. Because if you have, a very small window of elections you're looking at, it could skew the results and thus skew the overall proportionality or the purported proportionality, tongue twister, of the map. They also help show how durable these districts are, how well they can withstand certain swings in the electorate. So that's something very important that I wanted to kind of show you all, so you kind of have a real world look at what different data sets do for the districts. The second thing I want to talk about, and this is what I touched on earlier, is population or population maximization. Now, this is going to get a little nerdy, a little number heavy here, but stay with me. So I want to look at Cuyahoga County here. If we're looking at Cuyahoga County, we count up how many districts are wholly contained within Cuyahoga County. In this map, there are 10. There are 10 wholly contained districts within the county, with District 23 here, capturing some portions of the eastern portion of the county, but extending up into Lake. Now, why do I want to focus on this? Well, we're going to go to the statistics tab, which brings up all the numbers from all the districts. And it's really helpful because it allows you, the statistics tab allows you to sort. And I want to go to population here. And I'm going to go put the highest level population at the top. Now, it's important to realize that for state legislative districts in Ohio, there is much larger population variance that's allowed in each district. It's not like congressional districts where the Supreme Court has said you essentially need to have a 1-to-1 person ratio. For state legislative districts in the Ohio Constitution, you're allowed 95% to 105% of what's called a ratio of representation. Now, a ratio of representation is essentially you take the population of the state and you divide it by 99, the number of House seats. And for the Senate, you would divide the population of Ohio by 33. That number is our ratio of representation. That's what a perfect district would be, population-wise. And for 2020, following the 2020 census, each House district in Ohio has a goal of having 119,186 people in it. Now, you're allowed that -5 to +5% variance on that. So that means the allowable population window per district is between 113,000 to just over 125,000. So you have 12,000 people to play with here. Returning to Cuyahoga County. When you look over here in the population column, and you can see there are a number of districts that are at the tippy top of the allowable population. 9 of the 10 wholly contained districts in Cuyahoga County have greater than 4.88% in addition to a ratio of representation. 9 out of 10 districts in Cuyahoga County have over 125,000 people in them. And actually, District 15 here has is 1 person shy of being unconstitutional. The maximum allowable population is 125,145. They are 1 person short. So why do I bring this up? Well, let's go back to the map. If you were to take all 10 of these wholly contained Cuyahoga County districts and you were to drop them from the population that they're at all the way down to the lowest allowable population, which is a hair over 113,000, that ripple effect actually would allow you to have 1 whole additional wholly contained district in Cuyahoga County. So now that may not sound like much, but when we're looking at, 1 county, that, is substantial. But, we don't want to go from having every district maxed out in population to every district at the minimum of the population. We want to have a balance here. We want to have, as close to equal districts and equal populated districts as possible. So if we were to drop all 10 wholly contained districts down to the ideal number, 119,000, what we would have is enough people left over in Cuyahoga County for this 23rd district that has the remaining bits and then extends up to Lake. Instead of Cuyahoga County residents comprising less than 15% of the 23rd district, if we were to have optimal population among the Cuyahoga County districts, over 55% of District 23 would be Cuyahoga County based voters and residents.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is essentially that turns District 23 from a leaning Republican district to a leaning to almost safe Democratic district.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of population maximization happens all across this map. In Hamilton County, it happens down in Summit County as well. Not to the extent of here in Cuyahoga County, but this is just something that we also want to look at when we're talking about individual districts. And finally, what I want to focus on is looking at communities of interest and preserving communities of interest. Now, I grew up in Portage County, which is here in District 72, but I want to focus on Districts 74 and 65, or I'm sorry, 64 and 65. Let's zoom in here. These districts look relatively straightforward, relatively simple. However, because I'm from this area, I know Trumbull County very well. These two districts actually split key communities of interest in Trumbull County in two. And they do that by, in here, I'm going to throw on my city lines metric. Now, this can get a little messy, but as we can see here, District 64 has the cities of Warren, Niles, and McDonald. Well, the Mahoning Valley in Trumbull County actually also includes the city of Girard here and Liberty Township, which encompasses the city of Churchill. Now, why would they split these two communities? Why would they split this community in half? Well, I'm going to switch to precinct partisan lean and see if we can figure out why. So, as you can see here, this is Warren, this is the 64th district, Lordstown, Niles, McDonald, Warren. But here in the 65th district, you have the city of Girard and Liberty Township, which is essentially a northern Youngstown suburb, split off and contained into a district that goes all the way up almost to Lake Erie. Additionally, District 65 splits off, I'm going to zoom in here, the Youngstown-Warren Regional Airport. So the Youngstown-Warren Regional Airport is not represented by either the Warren or Youngstown representative under this map. So I took a little bit of time and I tried to reconfigure this district into something that I think would be respect communities of interest, actually be more compact, and also help with proportionality. And what I came up with is this. As you can see, a very compact district that encapsulates the more urban areas of the Trumbull County-based Mahoning Valley. It also includes the Warren-Youngstown Regional Airport. And it also allows for the more rural areas of Trumbull to be a more cohesive district. We're not lumping Farmington Township and also, let's see, what's this? And Bristol Township in with the more urban areas of the southern Trumbull County. What does this do? Well, it obviously makes the district more compact. It makes it a better community of interest, a more cohesive community of interest. And it also just so happens to make it a slightly Democratic district, thus helping the state's overall proportionality. Now, again, this is not unique. This district here is not unique to this map. We see these kind of, splits of, not individual jurisdictions, but of communities of interest all over the map. From Lucas County, we showed Montgomery and Hamilton. Akron and Summit County is the exact same way. So these are all, quote unquote, legal ways to still input partisan advantage into these maps. But when you look at it in the totality, and it goes back to the chart we first talked about, it's very easy to have compact districts that respect communities of interest. And I should also add, I'll turn off the partisan lean, that also allows more minority representation. As you can see here in Liberty Township, that was originally excluded in the 65th district. It's in together with Warren. This makes 1 out of every 5 inhabitants of this 64th district a minority voter. So there are ways to achieve fair maps that honor proportionality, competitiveness, compactness, minority representation, while also honoring the splitting requirements. So I know that was fast, but those are some of the things that I look to when I'm on Dave's and I'm looking through district maps. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, and I'll send it back over to Mia.
Thank you so much. And actually, amazingly enough, there's even more that Dave's can do when you get into the analysis and data parts. So actually, I'm going to take my spotlight off and share my screen again. And I know it's late, guys, and thank you for sticking with us. I'm just going to go through a few things before we go. Sorry, I have to get to. Sorry, sometimes when I've been sharing before, it does a weird thing. And I go back to Zoom and I share, and here we go. So, very, very quickly, just wanted to let you guys know that Common Cause National just released a report about redistricting in the 50 states, and they graded all the states. It's really interesting, and we've got a link there to the full report. You won't be too shocked to see that Ohio received an F grade for their redistricting. We are at on the band of shame at the very bottom there, along with Alabama, Florida, etc. But, what is next? We've seen this. So basically, what is the summary? The maps we just got that were given to us by the Ohio Redistricting Commission, they are not better. They are still gerrymanders, and they don't need to be. There's no need for them to be. We can make better maps, and we can look in Dave's and see how to make better maps. Luckily, we are full steam ahead with the redistricting, the next redistricting initiative, Citizens Not Politicians. You can check out the petition language there. We had a really great discussion of it in the September Huddle, and also with former Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor. We've got some links there to the YouTube. But you guys probably already know that Yoast approved the summary language on October 2nd, and tomorrow morning at 9, the ballot board is meeting, and they will decide if it's a single subject or not. You can attend. It's at the Senate Finance. The link goes to the agenda with the address. It's in the Senate Finance hearing room at the State House, or you can watch on the Ohio channel. Regardless of whether they approve it or not, if they approve it, great, we can start collecting signatures. If they don't, it'll be a delay, but eventually we will, in fact, start collecting signatures. I know a lot of people are going to ask me when. Well, as soon as possible, but we don't want to rush. We want to, take some time, build some infrastructure, make sure we have good systems for delivering and collecting, but we're not going to let the momentum go. We're going to keep pushing forward, and we're going to count on you all to be a part of this, what's going to be an amazing statewide effort. This sign up link here to get involved, it's very thorough. It's kind of a questionnaire. Have you, did you collect for fair districts in 2017, 2018? Did you collect for repro? What are the organizations you work with? Do you want to be involved with other parts of the campaign? So it's kind of a little bit more involved form, but we hope you sign up and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. Just a reminder, so the ballot board is meeting tomorrow, and then this is all one campaign. It's not just about getting the signatures. It's about making sure that we get on the ballot and that we win. And then we implement the maps. So it's all connected. We have petition circulation trainings coming up on the 17th and the 26th. We also, of course, have election protection going on, and issue 1, which is a lot of people care a lot about. There's some webinars there that are about, the truth about issue 1. We hope folks are getting involved and supporting, what they care about there. And early voting started today. We want to make sure that you're getting out to vote. You're doing election protection, you're getting involved. It's all connected, supporting our democracy, reviving our democracy. But of course, we need fair districts for that. That's it. We have, of course, always some links to articles and helpful links. But that is basically it. Thank you to Collin and Trevor and Tiffany for answering questions, dropping links. We will send a follow-up tomorrow. And I know there's always more questions than we can really answer, but thank you so much for being involved. You guys are so important. Fingers crossed for the ballot board tomorrow. We will all be paying attention, and you will, I think we'll wait to send our follow-up until after the meeting. How about that? So we can give you the update and the next steps. The next huddle is actually scheduled for the day after the election. So that's going to be fascinating. So we look forward to seeing you then or before then. And with that, I will say good night. Thank you so much.